For joining us on a Tuesday. My phone is blowing up, guys, with content and with deal flow as we speak. A lot we're going to cover on today's program as I'm navigating text messages and updates locally while hosting content that we enjoy doing that creates work for us, but frankly keeps us at top of mind locally. A lot I want to cover on the program. I'm going to ask you this question. If Ziana Bryant, the activist, the one known for the Robert E. Lee statue removal in Market Street Park, the one known for tarring and feathering Morgan Benninger, the UVA student, with a Black Women's Matter march and activism on Water Street years ago that led to Morgan Benninger being expelled from UVA. Ziana Bryant's running for school board. What happens if Ziana Bryant wins? What are the pros and cons for the Charlottesville public school system if Ziana Bryant, in a Democratic setting, get the most votes? She don't even need the most votes. She needs to finish in the top 3. There's 4 candidates running for 3 spots. 2 of the 4 candidates are incumbents. 2 of the candidates, including Zy Bryant, are first-time runners for the school board spot. One of the 4 is Deshad Tippy Cooper. I would imagine Deshad Cooper, who's already been hammered and annihilated with his pursuit for council, a spot on city council, in a past election cycle. I would imagine of the 4, Deshad Cooper has the longest shot of winning. I think Emily Dooley and Lisa Torres, the incumbents, have name recognition and the value proposition of being incumbents. And Zy Bryant, if I had to pick, Judah, who's going to get the most votes of the 4, I'm going to go Zy Bryant gets the most votes. Then I need to ask you, the viewer and listener, what will that do to public education locally in Charlottesville? How will it impact the wealthy families in the city who can afford private school education but are sending their sons or daughters to Charlottesville High School? Charlottesville High School, we'll cut to the chase, from an AP standpoint, an advanced placement standpoint, an honors standpoint, Charlottesville High School is known for having a fantastic advanced placement track for high achievers. Does an activist on the school board drive some of those high achievers that come from affluent family household incomes to private schools? Does it further gentrify the school system at Charlottesville High School and Charlottesville Public Schools? That's a question we're going to talk about on today's show. We're going to talk Creigh Deeds, the state senator. Boy, oh boy, Creigh Deeds is how would you say this? Growing a pair? Creigh Deeds is growing a pair?
You think that? You think that sounds right?
Are you on a 2-shot over there?
No.
You don't think growing a pair sounds right?
I mean, it's not like he gave up and hung his head in defeat at one point.
Okay, I'll give you that.
He's been continually dogging them for information, and he's continuing on that path today.
All right, so I listen to you. I agree. You're a valued opinion on the show. I'm going to change my words. Excuse me, from growing a pair, the state senator, Creigh Deeds, who I routinely see around town, to Creigh Deeds pursuing his investigation with the Board of Visitors and University of Virginia through a woodpecker's approach, persistence. He, on the 15th of August, provided a deadline for UVA, specifically its rector and vice rector, a deadline to answer 46 questions, on what led to the resignation of Jim Ryan and how closely the rector and vice rector worked with the Department of Justice and the Trump administration to ouster Jim Ryan. That deadline yielded zilch, zero, nada. Creigh Deeds, his 46 questions, yielded absolutely nothing. And it looked at that point that Creigh Deeds was emasculated of influence and power and was nothing more than a suit in Richmond that was trying to talk the talk but could not walk the walk. Now Creigh Deeds, the institution, a generation and local government as an elected official, Creigh Deeds, is saying, I'm going balls to the wall here and I'm going after this information. And you're going to do this through a FOIA. You're going to give me this information. Interesting wrinkle here. The interim president who replaced Jim Ryan on an interim basis, he said at the Board of Visitors meeting last week, some of these investigations with the Department of Justice and the University of Virginia are now closed. And he said that, the interim president, on the record. And he did that, I would imagine, strategically, because the interim president, we are to believe, is an ally of Jim Ryan. And as an ally of Jim Ryan, he has no reason for the information not to be out there on what led to Jim Ryan's resignation. So Creigh Deeds captured, jumped on it, catapulted on the interim president, saying 2 of these investigations are closed. And now Creigh Deeds is saying, Rector and Vice Rector, I'm going to FOIA you. And you're going to give us that information whether you like it or not. A tough spot to be the rector and vice rector right now. I equate it to the eggs that are in the carton in the fridge, and the parents come out of their bedroom in the morning and decide, do we want to eat the Cinnamon Toast Crunch for breakfast, the Lucky Charms for breakfast? Do we want to have a bagel for breakfast, or do we want to have hard-boiled eggs? And the rector and the vice rector are the eggs that are sitting comfortably in the fridge at very cool temperatures, that are literally being pulled from the sub-zero, taken out of their carton, and about to be dropped into boiling hot water to create a hard-boiled egg breakfast for mom and dad and Ivy. And that's where the rector and vice rector are, with Creigh Deeds taking these eggs out of the sub-zero and close to dropping them in boiling hot water, because the Freedom of Information Act requests, it's a public university, they have to provide those correspondence, that communication and those details with the rector and vice rector, and whether or not they were in cahoots with the Department of Justice and the Trump administration and the firing of Jim Ryan. And good night. Can you imagine the backlash? Can you imagine the Young and the Restless soap opera if the communication suggests the UVA rector and vice rector, while they were on the Board of Visitors, prior to being named rector and vice rector as they are now, they were previously on the Board of Visitors before they got rector and vice rector positioning and recognition. If they were working in conjunction with the Trump administration to have the president fired, and if they were the hatchet women for Glenn Youngkin and for the Trump administration, can you imagine the content we would have on the I Love CVille show for months to come? And how that would drive the news cycle? Good Lord, part of me, Judah, and by part of me, I mean my entire being, Judah, wants to see Rachel Sheridan and Porter Wilkinson, the rector and vice rector, in cahoots with the Trump administration and the DOJ to ouster Jim Ryan. Part of my entire being wants to see that play out that way. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about that on today's program. A lot we're going to cover. We're locked and loaded. Which headline, Judah, most intrigued you and why?
I'm interested in the fact that you think there's some upsides to Ziana Bryant on the school board. I
got to give Ziana Bryant, who probably does not like me very much, and I'm okay with that. I'm indifferent on Ziana Bryant.
I'm not a fan.
Oh, Judah, not a fan. Okay.
I mean, come on. She ruined someone's life and never gave a single word of apology. I mean, that's pretty low in my book. And to see someone like that in charge of young people, I don't think that's. I don't see the upside.
Maybe Judah Wickower took the words out of my mouth. You got early 20s, mid-20s woman who's never had kids, who's destroyed the life of a fellow UVA college student on a meritless accusation that Morgan Benninger utilized racist rhetoric during a Black Women's Matter march on Water Street in downtown Charlottesville.
I mean, let's be fair. She said something, and her life was ruined because of it. Who cares? Like, both sides love to talk about freedom of speech until they hear speech that they don't like. And in this case, it wasn't even speech that came out of Morgan Bettinger's mouth. Even if it was, did she deserve to have her life ruined?
And we've seen so many different microcosms of this over the last couple of months in 2025. We saw it with Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
Where his life was taken because an alleged assassin.
Well, he was an assassin. Whoever it was, whether it's the guy that they think did it or not,
because an assassin disagreed with his platform and his rhetoric. We saw it with Morgan Bettinger and Ziana Bryant. So many examples in this new era we live where free speech is attacked as if the speech is a crime itself. And we know free speech has consequences.
Yeah.
But those consequences are not assassination.
Right.
And those consequences, certainly, if you're incorrect and you have any character, involve an apology of some sort. And Ziana Bryant certainly did not offer that to Morgan Bettinger.
None that I'm aware of.
A lot we're going to cover on the broadcast, ladies and gentlemen, including the Florida State Seminoles, now a 6.5-point favorite on Friday night in Scott Stadium, 7:30 p.m., ESPN National Television. The line opened at 7.5 yesterday. That means the betting public thinks this will be a closer game than what was initially anticipated. I'm going to ask you, the viewer and listener, this question. Friday night's matchup with top 10 in the country, Florida State. Is this the most significant football game the University of Virginia football team has played in how long? I asked Jerry Ratcliffe this question, and he was, wow, I have to give this some thought. When UVA played Clemson in the ACC championship, no one thought Virginia was going to beat Clemson. When UVA played Florida in the Orange Bowl, right after that ACC championship matchup, no one thought Virginia was going to be victorious in the Orange Bowl. Everyone was just grateful for the invitation to the Orange Bowl. Friday night, there's some folks that legitimately anticipate UVA could upset Florida State, including folks on the coaching staff. One of the coaching staff members at Florida State, its defensive coordinator, said, quote, Virginia is no joke to Jerry Ratcliffe. This is one of the best offenses in the country, not just the ACC, the entire country. Virginia is no joke. James Watson, Rob Neal, viewers and listeners, is this as significant of a matchup for Virginia football and how long? And then you throw in the fact that it's at Scott Stadium. So much we're going to cover on today's program, including, ladies and gentlemen, right now, Juan Diego Wade, Lloyd Snook, Michael Payne, Natalie Olshan, and Brian Pinkston talking amongst themselves that we're going to have to raise taxes on you, on you, on you, on you, you, and anyone in Charlottesville. Their leadership has yielded income streams so diminished and depressed that all they can think of right now is to raise taxes to make up the delta, the downward delta. Holy bejeebus, ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot to cover. Zy Bryant's yard signs, a product of Sir Speedy of Central Virginia. The banner behind me, a product of Sir Speedy of Central Virginia. The storefront window at the I Love CVille studio, a soon-to-be product of Sir Speedy of Central Virginia, a position that we're pursuing on the downtown mall, and its signage, soon to be a product of Sir Speedy of Central Virginia, locally owned and operated. Conan Owen, the Darden School graduate, Sir Speedy of Central Virginia, who you call for your signage needs. Conan Owen, Sir Speedy of Central Virginia. Talk to him today. Good man. Sir Speedy of Central Virginia. Judah Wickower, show is yours. Rock and roll.
Mine. Well, let's see.
Headline that most intrigues you?
I'm most intrigued by Zy Bryant and the school board seat, although talking about Creigh Deeds continuing his push for for investigation information from UVA is certainly noteworthy. I don't think he's going to get very far, and I don't think this is a matter of him being emasculated. I think it's just a matter of poor timing. We keep hearing that there are investigations going on, and they are not allowed to. You think,
Judah,
they're getting this from the lawyers. This
Judah.
isn't like some random person at UVA saying, I don't think I'm going to give you that information.
J-Dubs,
Yeah.
my friend,
Yes.
my colleague of nearly 15 years here at the Miller
here.
Organization, a man that has become trusted because of his metronome-like consistency with his commentary, the yin to the yang of mine. When Creigh Deeds insisted that the rector and vice rector answer 46 questions, he knew the investigations were going on. To say that it's not fair to Creigh Deeds because the investigations are going on is bogus in my opinion. Because he posed those 46 questions while the investigations were active.
He may not have been completely. In fact, the fact is that there are several investigations going on with DOJ, apparently, and without being a part of those investigations, how would he have intimate knowledge of them?
Because he's not a moron. Because he's a state senator.
Well, then
because when he asked the 46 questions and he was questioned by the media about the basis of the 46 questions, specifically the daily progress, his exact words are, I'm in touch with active Board of Visitors members. I'm in touch with previous Board of Visitors members. I'm in touch with the 1% that donate the tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to the university. I'm in touch with the players that are telling me what's going on. So he has conversations with the players that are telling him what's going on at the University of Virginia, and we're led to believe that they didn't say to him the investigation is active and you're going to get stonewalled?
Well, then let's follow that to its logical conclusion. Is he a fool for posing those 46 questions, knowing that there were ongoing investigations?
He's not a fool for posing those 46 questions. Where he looked foolish was the gap between posing those 46 questions, not getting a response after his August 15th deadline, and this time period of purgatory where he waited to follow up on the 46 questions. Then this program, the I Love CVille Show, called Creigh Deeds out. And we seen Creigh Deeds. You look like an emasculated politician who has no influence and clout if you do not pursue this investigation. My exact words on this show documented. And now, this past week, at close of business last week, he decides to follow through on the FOIA to get the nitty-gritty. I think Creigh Deeds started realizing that he was going to look like a numbnuts if he did not follow up on these 46 questions with an actual investigation, because it looked like window dressing at best.
So you
At
think,
worst, it looked like pomp and circumstance to try to offer his constituency the perception that he was doing something, when in reality he asked the 46 questions at a time when he could never even get the answers.
so you think with the FOIA request, he is going to get all the information he wants?
Well, he has to now.
Has to?
Freedom of Information Act request of a public university, the communication between the current rector and vice rector, if they were foolish enough to document that communication on the record, in email, or in correspondence that could be tracked paper trail wise, he's going to get that information. Now, I don't know the rector and vice rector from Adam or Eve, okay? And I don't know if the rector or vice rector have eaten from the forbidden fruit to be casted out of the garden. And in this case, the forbidden fruit, eating from that tree, would be corresponding and documented trail in conjunction with the DOJ, in conjunction with the Trump administration, to oust Jim Ryan. If they decided to chomp on the apple, and that apple chomping led to communication with Trump and with the DOJ, this is how we're going to kick Jim Ryan out, the hatchet women of Glenn Youngkin, then these folks deserve to be bounced from the garden.
Okay.
And if they're bounced from the garden, Porter, and if they're bounced from the garden, Rachel, that's going to be a story of monumental proportions, ladies and gentlemen.
And
this is how, go ahead here, go ahead.
We're already short board of visitors members.
Already right now. And this is how this story is going to play out. Creigh Deeds, who goes from an emasculated numbnuts looking for answers to 46 questions during an active investigation when the board is saying we can't give you these answers, and then he's waiting more than a month to follow up on a deadline that was passed. Now he's going from emasculated numbnuts to persistent as a woodpecker with his investigation. And if he gets that information, and it's proven documented-wise that Porter and Rachel worked in conjunction with Trump and the DOJ to ouster Jim Ryan, then you have the most significant story in University of Virginia history, period. This story will trump white-collar racketeering with UVA Health, fraudulent billing, medical chart changing to maintain performance standards and drive top-line revenue. That story would get trumped, pun intended. It would trump pepper spraying pro-Palestine students on grounds. That story would be trumped. Sadly, it would trump the 3 murdered football players. If Youngkin or Trump empower or direct 2 Board of Visitors members to serve as their hatchet women to oust the school president, and they're numbnuts enough to document that communication in any kind of FOIA landscape, we have the most significant story in the University of Virginia history, period. Period. And it's interesting how we've gotten to this point. In part, this past Board of Visitors member, whether it's strategic, whether it's conscious or subconscious, the interim president said, hey, 2 of these investigations are over. So we got closure here. Could probably get that information. And you know he's a Jim Ryan ally. John Blair watching the program, number 2 in the family, his photo on screen. He says, welcome back, guys. Gosh, it's good to be back, John Blair. It's great to be sitting against the vivacious, the charismatic, and outgoing Judah Wickower. He says, welcome back, guys. You might recall that yours truly, John Blair, predicted that Creigh Deeds would not get his questions answered. I also said that he would then file a FOIA request. Here's what's likely to happen next. UVA will respond and cite the personnel and legal advice FOIA exemptions withhold voluminous documents. So John Blair, who knows how this game is played like the Pope knows holy water. John Blair, who knows how this game is played like Judah knows denim in the summer. John Blair, who knows how this game is played like Jerry knows IPAs, says UVA is going to play the game back to Creigh Deeds and say, this is a personnel issue, and because of any legal exposure, we're going to withhold documentation because it's a personnel issue. Someone's covering something up.
It's easy for it to look that way.
Judah, where there's smoke, there's fire.
Okay.
Judah, this is a campfire roasting so significantly that Smokey the Bear is concerned about acreage getting burned down. It's not a campfire where some s'mores are being toasted.
Oh.
It's a campfire where the Hershey's, the marshmallow, the graham crackers, the tents, the coolers, the bottle of bourbon, the sleeping bag, the entire family, and about 1,000 acres are on the cusp of being burned down.
Wow.
And they're hiding it. They're hiding it right now. You know this. Viewers and listeners agree or disagree. Make your point for why it's not a conspiracy, Judah Wickower. I trust your opinion.
Make my point for why it's not. I mean, you could be 100% right, but we have no proof right now. All we've got is Creigh Deeds' dogged relentless push to get information from UVA, and we have continued stonewalling. But a lot of that is from the UVA, UVA's own lawyers. And I doubt that the lawyers are.
Creigh Deeds is a lawyer, by the way. You know that. He is a lawyer.
Yeah.
Okay. He's a lawyer by trade. He's not making his money with the peanuts he's making as a state senator.
Well.
He is a lawyer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with Washington-based law firm are the ones writing to deeds on behalf of the university. I mean, to suggest that that there's some kind of conspiracy between UVA and this Washington-based law firm to hide facts from Creigh deeds seems a bit out there.
Let me ask you a question, and then we'll get to Deep Throat and his comments next. If you were a betting man, and I'm aggressively trying to turn you into a gambling man because you know I have a gamble to me. If you're a betting man, would you say that there is any cahoots with Glenn Youngkin, the Trump administration, the DOJ, and Rachel Sheridan, and I always mess up Porter's name, and Porter Wilkinson?
There very well could be.
I'm asking you a straightforward question.
If I was a betting man,
if you were a betting
would I say that there's some
would you see that there is a behind-the-scenes communication or MO with Trump, the DOJ, Glenn Youngkin, Porter Wilkinson, and Rachel Sheridan as it applies to the job security and the job retention of Jim Ryan?
I want to ask questions. I'm sorry. I want to ask questions. Did Porter and Rachel? Did Porter Wilkinson and Rachel Sheridan push President Ryan out?
Did Porter Wilkinson and Rachel Sheridan work in conjunction with the DOJ and an attorney working for the Department of Justice that was educated at the University of Virginia Law School to ratchet the heat up so high against the university by leveraging federal funding, hundreds of billions of federal funding allocated to the University of Virginia for research and for employee salary, with the sole mission of making the seat so hot that Jim Ryan says, enough already, I'm done with this. Knowing that he also would get 13 months of paid compensation at his presidential pay, which is 13 months at $1 million a year in salary compensation.
Okay, but
plus a position at UVA to work as a teacher where he's going to work even a fraction of the hours.
Okay, but that leads me to the question, why would the president or the DOJ need to work with Rachel Sheridan and Porter Wilkinson, much less with Governor Youngkin, in order to, as you say, ratchet up the pressure on Jim Ryan?
Because they needed the DOJ, they needed the BOV, to also potentially put pressure on Ryan from that side as well. Remember, before Ryan resigned, there was pressure from the Board of Visitors to eradicate diversity, equity, and inclusion. Burt Ellis was a part of this. The board was a part of this. They set deadlines for Jim Ryan and his administration to eradicate DEI. And all Jim Ryan did was shuffle DEI and rebrand DEI. That's all Jim Ryan did was rebrand DEI. He basically spit at the BOV and say, I don't respect you. I'm just going to rebrand you. Do something about it. And if you remember at the time, that's when Jim Ryan's lieutenants started hitting the road, Jack. He lost the provost to, was it Middlebury College? Ian Balcom?
Something like that.
The head of UVA Health resigned for the white-collar racketeering. Then he loses the head of the hospital. Then he loses the dean of the medical school. He starts losing people in the UVA Foundation left and right. Everybody was leaving because they saw the writing on the wall and they wanted to get the hell out of the Dodge. And in the grand scheme of things, these academics, the ones that were at retirement age were just taking retirement. But the academics like Jim Ryan could make well more than $1 million if he's in the private sector. He's even said on the record multiple times, making a living as a school president is no living at all. He said that multiple times on the record.
I think some people would argue.
What? You have you don't sleep? You age at the clip of a president upon entering the White House and then leaving the White House? Look at how much the man has aged. You're constantly in the news. What, you're going to say it's the $1 million?
I didn't say anything.
We're at the 106 marker, and boy, oh boy, do we have a lot more to cover. Creigh deeds, you listen to the program. Creigh deeds, you watch the program. Creigh deeds, I know you do because I've been told you do. I want you to listen to me, please, Creigh deeds. You follow up on this FOIA request, and you figure out if Wilkinson and Sheridan were the hatchet women of the DOJ, Trump, or Youngkin. And if they do what Mr. Blair has said, where they're not going to release the information because it's a personnel issue, then Creigh deeds, you find another solution, and that's what you do by trade. You're an attorney. Because if you did all this for the perception for your constituency that you were trying to do something, then that makes you look weak. And in 2025, we can see through those ploys. We can see through those ploys, sir. Next headline. Judah Wickhauer's lower thirds are being rotated on screen. What's the next one?
Oh, let's see.
Vanessa Parkhill says this, her photo on screen. How is in cahoots defined for the purpose of this conversation? Does complying with DOJ requests equal in cahoots?
Yeah.
Or would there need to be some evidence of malice? That's a great question.
That is a great question.
I think Go ahead.
That's one of my issues with all of this is that, like you said, they weren't in their current spots as rector and vice rector. What could the DOJ possibly have needed them for?
But they were on the board.
Yeah, I know that.
And being on the board, I serve on a commercial condo board. The president of the commercial condo board, which is 5 people, has the same voting power as someone who's not an officer on the commercial condo board. Mm-hmm. The rector may set the agenda and control the pace and tempo of the meeting, but in the end, the rector has a vote equivalent to someone that's on the board that has no honorary title. Deep throat. Based on my experience with FOIAing the city, I do wonder how good document email retention is on the Board of Visitors. In the city, when FOIA was applied to Planning Commission, what the city did was send an email to the commissioners asking them to please search your emails for responsive material. The BOV members, do they use some official email system? Or if they are tight with the Trump administration, did they just use the phone or private emails? It's a great question.
Yeah.
I mean, we just saw a big fiasco with Trump, with the Trump administration and the app Signal, which is encoded, super safe communication platform. Have you noticed that with WhatsApp, their advertising material is their marketing campaign with WhatsApp and Signal is the trustedness of the communication, the fact that it can't be hacked versus text messaging? Trump administration, they literally were communicating on Signal about national security, and that information got out. Folks deserve to know the truth. And we're going to learn a lot about Creigh Deeds if he was pursuing this authentically or from a perception standpoint to gain equity, perceived equity with constituents and voters. Or does he authentically, genuinely care what happened at the University of Virginia? The next headline, is it Zy Bryant?
I believe it is.
And this is a perfect dovetail into the school resource officer headline, right?
Yeah.
Look, viewers and listeners, if your kids go to Charlottesville Public Schools, you need to ask yourself this question. Do you feel safer with a school resource officer in the hallways? And if the answer to that question is yes, then you don't vote for Zy Bryant. If the answer to that question is no, then Zy Bryant probably gets your vote. School resource officer is one of the key platform points of this election. Emily Dooley, the incumbent, for example, is a pro-school resource officer person. Then the Gillikin gang, Shannon and Matthew, led a campaign against school resource officers, and I believe the number in each school, or total went from 4 to 2?
It was going to be 4. I believe they're discussing cutting that down to 2.
And correct me if I'm wrong. It's not per school, but it's in the system in totality.
I think it was originally with the 4. It was going to be 1 in the high school, 1 in the middle school. 1 I think was a floater, and I can't remember what the exact role of the 4th was going to be.
But it was a 4 total.
Yeah.
And now they're cutting it to 2
Yeah.
because of a campaign against safety. Because school resource officers are a pipeline to prison. A pipeline to prison for pupils. I can do a better alliteration than that. A pupil pipeline to prison. A pipeline to pupil prison? A pipeline to prison for pupils. I call BS on that. What's a pipeline to prison? Calls in trouble. A pipeline to prison is not SOHCAHTOA or A squared plus B squared equals C squared. A pipeline to prison isn't who killed Abraham Lincoln. Do you know who that is?
Yeah. John Wilkes Booth?
Or John F. Kennedy. You know who that is?
Oh, yeah, I do. I'm drawing a blank.
Shoot up.
Sorry, I'm drawing a blank.
Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah. I knew it was going to be 3 names.
Lee Harvey Oswald. That's not a pipeline to prison. A pipeline to prison is causing trouble. It's not the SRO.
Yeah.
It's not the SRO.
No.
Ziana Bryant, if she wins, the pros and cons, and you take the lead here, you make your argument.
I mean,
Pros and cons of Ziana Bryant.
as you mentioned, she is going to be against SROs. I think that's a mistake, but I don't have any kids in school, so I'm not the best person to ask. Still, I think.
But you have practicality and common sense.
SROs are good for the schools, and knowing the chief of police, Mike Kochis, I know
Saw him today. Had a great conversation with Chief Kochis today. Fine man.
I know that he doesn't want to send people in to bust kids and send them to juvie or get them in trouble. He wants to keep order in the schools so that the schools can run efficiently, and so that teachers aren't shouldered with doing an onerous task that they shouldn't have to do, which is the job of the SROs. Keeping order in hallways and classrooms should not be something that a teacher has to take on as a secondary job assignment. That's not why they become teachers, and they shouldn't have to do that. Having an SRO in the school means that there is someone who can be a voice and a figure of authority, and this kind of goes back to the city council not wanting to pass the ordinance. When the police have a framework over which they can do their job, things tend to run smoothly. Having SROs in the school with the ability to take action when action is necessary is better than having them not there and having teachers fill that role without any authority to do anything. We don't want teachers getting into fights with students. We don't want teachers having to try to decide how to defuse a situation that they're not trained to defuse.
There it is. In the grand scheme of America, the police historically have not been our enemy. Have there
Some
been
would argue
been
that.
bad apples? Absolutely. Have there been examples of stepping out of bounds or out of the law or policing in the absolute wrong capacity? Of course there have been. Just like there's examples of folks that are men and women of God doing terrible, terrible things that they should not do. But those Small data points are not reflective of an overall trend line. And since CACHIS has arrived in Charlottesville, the police department has performed admirably and above board.
Yeah.
Because they're a reflection of the leader of the department, CACHIS himself.
Amen.
Saying that putting an officer in the school is a pipeline to prison for pupils is akin to saying she walked down the street late at night scantily clothed and that's why she got raped. It's a bogus correlation. It's absurd.
Yeah.
It's absurd. The person that committed the rape is to blame for the rape. The person that committed the trouble in the school is to blame for the trouble in the school. It's not the clothing or the officer in the hallway. A vote for Bryant is a vote for no SRO.
Yeah.
Pros and cons, Bryant winning, you will see affluent students pulled from the school system, mark it down, and positioned in private schools, mark it down. A vote for Bryant, positive side, you will see disenfranchised students, financially marginalized students, historically marginalized students because of skin color, champion, maybe to tunes they never have before.
What do you think that looks like? I'm curious.
Additional funding for the budget allocated to students tied to a socioeconomic threshold.
Okay.
That's an example. Resources and counseling provided to students from a socioeconomic household. And maybe that's needed. Maybe that's needed. The sake of this topic on the show is to talk the respond and react to a Bryant winning. Because as a betting person, my instinct says that Bryant is going to be one of the 3 winners. There's 4 horses in this race. There's 3 spots. She doesn't even have to finish atop the pole in victory lane.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to carry the roses and run around the track with the bed of roses around her neck like you see in the Kentucky Derby. She doesn't even have to finish in the 2nd spot. All she has to do is finish in the top 3.
Yep.
And my 25 years of covering this suggests that Cooper is the one that ain't going to win.
Dashad
Cooper, who's already lost a city council race where he was eviscerated in that race.
Yep.
Emily Dooley, I see her winning. She's going for a 2nd term. Torres, she's going for what, her 3rd term? Lisa Torres? Bryant very eagerly wants a career in politics. Do you not agree with that?
I think I would agree with that.
She's politically motivated. The first step in that trampoline, that verticality of politics, is school board. Next headline, Judah Wickower, 120 marker.
Well, let's see. City Council considering raising taxes on residents.
I think it's time, and I'm going to pick up the pace and tempo on this. And I said this yesterday. What makes this so difficult for me is Juan Diego Wade is such a nice guy.
I saw him driving
His Vespa.
Yep, this morning on my way to work.
With a helmet that looks like a bike helmet and stickers all over the Vespa, including a Heart Charlottesville sticker.
I did see the heart in the rear view.
We've been driving the Vespa safely. He motors around this city on a Vespa. But I'm telling you right now, they're talking about raising taxes on you, all of us. Their meals tax is down. Their lodging tax is down.
Yep.
Their sales tax collection is down. Real estate values are down. They're going to start talking about cutting money to the police department. They're going to start cutting money to the public school systems, talking about cutting money left and right and doing more with less. And we have gotten in this position because we have a council that is reflective of a council led by Nakia Walker. A council that was influenced with activism as opposed to a council focused on equity and economic development. A council scared of a small contingent of people as opposed to a council willing to stand up to them. The council that came out of the disastrous Nakiah Walker era was a council that was thick-skinned, a council that was bold, that made government boring and the background consistent and predictable, one led by Lloyd Snook.
But
the council reflective today is symbolic of the personality of its mayor, Juan Wade. Far from thick-skinned, far from trailblazer, and certainly one that in 5th, 6th, or 7th grade had his Lunchables and had his cheese stick and had his Gushers fruit snacks bullied from him next to the swing set by the schoolyard bully. He did not enjoy his Gushers fruit snacks. Most of his Lunchables, the slices of meat and the cheese, were eaten by Billy the bully. And that cheese stick, where you could pull the layers of cheese off, the mozzarella stick, and goodness, each cheese layer that you pulled off was so delightful and delectable, that string cheese. Juan didn't enjoy that. Billy the bully did.
Okay.
You're not buying the Billy the bully and Juan Wade on the middle school playground?
No, I'm more have an issue with your take on Lloyd Snook's
Lloyd Snook's
period of leadership.
Lloyd Snook's a friend.
Yeah, I'm
right
not,
down the hallway. See him over here. Lloyd Snook's on the back
I know.
end. He's over 70 years old. He's checked out. He realizes he's lost total influence on this council. He doesn't participate to the tune he used to participate in, and he loves to hear himself talk. Lloyd Snook's checked out. He's on his second term. He's like, goodness gracious, don't rock the boat. I got my legacy on Wikipedia cemented. I'm just going to do nothing here and get to the end, and I'm never going to run again. This town is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Warrior AG, your comments coming up. Deep Throat, your comments coming up. Print, radio, and television watching the program. Charlottesville Sanitary Supply, 61 years in business. Online at East High Street. Charlottesville Sanitary Supply has been in business for 61 years. The John and Andrew Vermillion are honest, they're communicative, they're trustworthy. They knew sanitary like Judah knows denim, like Juan Diego Wade does not know string cheese. Charlottesville Sanitary Supply, online at charlottesvillesanitarysupply.com. Warrior AG has this to say. Teachers not only lack the authority, they also lack the de-escalation training to solve these troubles at school. He's 100% right. He says, defund the police is tied to no police in the school. That's tied to boys and girls in locker rooms and all the other dumb stuff that we see from the left, Warrior AG's words. And he says a vote for Spanberger is a vote for Bryant. It's one of the same. Warrior AG, my bet is Spanberger beats Winsome Earl Sears by more than 8 points. 8 percentage point delta with Spanberger over Winsome Earl Sears. Deep Throat's comments at the 125-minute marker. I got a 1:30 conference call. Let me draw a connection between the zoning debate and the SRO debate. The old zoning wasn't particularly restrictive, but could a very anti-development council use it or twist it to restrain development? Sure. This council, or any council likely to be elected in the foreseeable future, no way. SROs. Could SROs be used to create a pipeline to prison? I guess, in theory. But would SROs reporting to Mike Kochis do that? No way. Come on.
Right.
Exactly. Kochis would never allow it.
Yeah.
Dude, I was talking with Chief Kochis today outside the post office for about 10 minutes. Literally had a friendly conversation. As I'm having a conversation with Chief Kochis, we're talking about the Q&A at Violent Crown the previous week, this past week. 4 or 5 people just walking by talking to Kochis. You had the guy that was the houseless guy that had the service dog who knew who he was.
Yeah.
You had someone asking him about falling on the downtown mall and how she could report falling on the mall because she got a boo-boo on her elbow. You got the business. So literally, the man is a golden god. If Mike Conscious walked into the Aberdeen barn tomorrow, there would be half a dozen people at the Aberdeen barn saying, we're going to buy you a steak dinner, a martini, and whatever you want for dessert, and it's on us. Pipeline to prison. Pipeline to prison is so cliche. We hear so much word salad. Like last week, the plan is to plan. The pipeline to prison.
Yeah.
The criminalize the homeless. The activists in this town, with the pipeline to prison on the SROs, with the criminalize the homeless with the homeless ordinance, are using every word salad in the book. Pipeline to prison. Criminalize the homeless. ABC, easy as 1, 2, 3. Anything else you want to add to this? Got 2.5 minutes. I got a call I got to make.
The only reason I push back on what you were talking about with Lloyd Snook is that you say it was quiet and it was efficient, but we still have all these problems that were not resolved during his term and are continuing today. And you disagree?
I disagree.
Okay.
Disagree. He made government boring in the background and predictable. Coming out of one of the most tumultuous eras in Charlottesville history, Nakia Walker.
So you're saying his only job was to write the boat?
Yeah. Stabilize the organization.
Okay.
And he stabilized the organization. He did.
All right.
Juan Wade is is this his first term or his second term as mayor?
I think it's his first.
First term, right?
I believe so.
Okay. Since Juan Wade has taken over as a mayor, activists have become more emboldened. And he doesn't stabilize like Snook did. Look at the meeting a couple of weeks ago. Was at Microcosm, where he allowed people to be verbally assaulted, including his police chief.
Yeah.
I'll close with this. Friday night, Florida State hit Scott Stadium. The line started at 7.5 on Monday. It's now 6.5. Is this the most significant game that Virginia football has played in a generation? Don Gathers watching the program, the frequent speaker before council, an activist himself, a man I respect, a man I often disagree with, Don Gathers, but agree to disagree is one of the beautiful things about America. I think you would say that as well, Reverend Gathers. He says, this particular iteration of council is absolutely nothing like the council led by Mayor Walker. And Don Gathers says, possibly the tax hike is because of the $49 million thrown to the prison. Perhaps the prison allocation was a misappropriation of funds. Jim Hingley, who listens and watches to this show, would say otherwise. He would say otherwise, Don Gathers. But I understand that was a lot of money for the prison. Don, I would close with this, sir. You're a homeowner locally in Charlottesville. Sales tax collection is down. Meals tax collection is down. Tourism dollar collection is down. Lodging taxes are down. Your home that you live in, Mr. Gathers, has lost value to the tune of 4%, probably year over year. I would bet you, Don, that's a large portion of your retirement. Your home value is down, sir. And in about 4 or 5 months, council is going to say to you, Don Gathers, give us more of your money. Because guess what? We're down with our budget. So we're going to take some more of your money, Don. We're going to take some more of Judah's money, some more of my money, and more of all your money. Because how we've led this city has caused all our revenue streams to fall and year over year operate at a deficit. So Don, get ready. Get ready. And that's due today's council. That's the show. We kicked some ass today, especially Judah Wickower. Thank you for joining us.